Hello everyone, konnichiwa. My name is Daniela CESIRI and I'm Associate Professor of English Language, Linguistics and Translation in the Department of Linguistics and Comparative Cultural Studies at Foscari University of Venice. I wish to thank you, Akita University, for the opportunity you are giving me to share the results of part of my research with you. I am now switching off the camera so the video is not too heavy, but I will see you again at the end of the presentation. The aim of this presentation is to illustrate the findings of the specific research strand that I conducted on the popularization and dissemination strategies of specialist knowledge to lay audiences across various English-based media, as well as in other languages such as Italian. A central theme of the research is the concept of inter-epistemic translation or science in transit, whereby scientific information is adapted for different audiences in a process that strongly resembles that of translation that mediates contents from one source language or knowledge system into a target language system. In other words, science in transit is specifically meant in the perspective developed by the Epistrand Project 2025, but I am also adding more foundational references in the slide, such as Bennett 2024A, Bennett 2024B, and Bennett and Neves 2024. According to this theoretical perspective, knowledge dissemination as a science in transit and inter-epistemic translation can be defined as specialist knowledge that is transmitted across disciplines, reformulated for different audiences, and reworked into imaginative literature, audiovisual content, or works of art. So, concepts are translated from one system of knowledge, also called epistemic system, into another one. In the particular case of my research, I consider the specialist domain of experts, which is translated, mediated into the popularized domain of the lay people. Using the framework provided by inter-epistemic translation and integrated other methodological approaches, I am going to present the findings from two research case studies, namely the dissemination strategies of a hospital clinic website in English to disseminate information on lactose intolerance, focusing on the transmission of medical terminology to a non-specialist audience. In this first case, the research performed a multimodal analysis on the visual component, that is, graphic organization, visual metaphors, etc., and the verbal component, discursive devices of the website, to see how the two components are integrated to effectively inform patients about the condition. While case study B presents the dissemination strategies found concerning paleontology with an analysis of the subtitles from the Jurassic Park movie saga, investigated to identify the strategies used to transmit complex scientific theories to a mass audience in English, and the challenges faced when subtitling these concepts into Italian. Then the popularization of paleontology for children is also investigated through the animated series Dinosaur Train, and this part of the research is presented through an analysis of the verbal and visual features of the show to understand how it makes a complex hybrid scientific domain accessible to preschool children with limited attention span, following the Montessori method of lesson planning and teaching. To conclude, I will highlight the practical relevance of both research areas. Case study A, the dissemination of lactose intolerance information and the dissemination of dinosaur communication information, by showing how the findings can be applied in principle to any language context to the teaching and translation of ESP texts, genres, as well as to the enhancement of information material produced to inform the audience on certain medical conditions. Let us see the first case study, the strategies of knowledge dissemination concerning the condition known as lactose intolerance. The aim of this research area is to analyze how the websites disseminate medical knowledge on lactose intolerance and how they manage to transmit complex concepts to the general public. In this case, my research focused on both the verbal and the visual strategies, but because of time constraints, today I will focus only on the visual strategies with specific attention to the use of visual metaphors. Since these websites associate verbal descriptions to the use of pictures that accompany them, particular attention is paid to the use of visual metaphors, not only when the websites describe the primary and secondary symptoms of the condition, but also when they indicate the remedies necessary to tackle them. Also, because of time constraints, I will present only a selection of my data. In this case, the research focused on 4 websites in English: the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the Johns Hopkins Medicine and then hospital, and then the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Disease. And then I integrated the framework provided by the Epistrom project with the model provided by Kress and Van Leeuwen's 2006 to analyze visual metaphors, and then for the verbal metaphors in that case, Lakoff and Johnson's conceptual metaphor theory and Kovach's metaphor, a practical introduction. Of course, this was a qualitative investigation, not a quantitative one. Here, as you can see, are the screenshots of the websites investigated. A quick look at their pages dedicated to the condition will give you an idea of how they organized the information. Now, let's have a look at the findings. This is the page of the Mayo Clinic that is an interesting case study, since this is the only image present in the whole section dedicated to lactose intolerance. It represents the organs, systems involved in the condition. It is not really a visual metaphor, but a case of visual synecdoche, and one image which stands for the whole condition because it represents the system, the organs involved in generating the symptoms, where the enzyme is produced or not produced in the case of the condition, and the location of the condition itself, which is the digestive apparatus. In the case of the Cleveland Clinic, the situation is more complex, since the symptoms are explained with a consistent use of images, which include, as you can see, non-figurative representations, but a literal representation of the abdominal pain. You also have the use of visual euphemisms for the excessive production of intestinal gas. Then this is also the case of diarrhea, which is represented by a water closet. Then the visual metaphor, which is a pure visual metaphor of a speed tachymeter in this case, which stands for the velocity of emptying one's bowels. And also of for a visual metaphor that represents constipation. But in this case, this is not quite clear because it can be also misinterpreted for abdominal pain. And then, so these can be also interpreted as a case of visual euphemism. And then we have also a case of realistic representation of the product of your bowels. So in this case, they went for the literal representation without any sugar coating, so to say. So in this case, then the visual figurative expressions make a more frequent use of synecdoche, figurative euphemisms, metonymy, possibly because they refer to body parts and processes that are usually considered taboo or dirty, And so greater space was dedicated to text than images, which only occasionally accompanied the text. These were my findings. So they make it difficult to disseminate specialist knowledge on lactose intolerance, especially considering the US level of literacy. And remember that all my data came from US-based clinics and hospitals, and this was um, um, just a case because I selected a data set websites that were the first ones occurring through a Google search. And the number of so-called limited English proficient population that were still 40% in 2015, according to the US Migration Policy Office. Um, it would be advisable, more advisable, to make a greater use of pictures. So even those who are not very proficient in English can understand the symptoms, and then the information is of contents. Let us now see the second case study, which considers the strategies of knowledge dissemination concerning dinosaurs to adults and children. Dinosaur Train was a mostly animated TV series, first broadcast in 2009, still continuing in the present day, and it is composed of 89 episodes. It is aimed at preschool children, and from the series website, it is described as embracing and celebrating the fascination that preschoolers have with both dinosaurs and trains, while encouraging basic scientific thinking skills as the audience learns about life science, natural history, and paleontology. End of quote. Each of the 89 half-hour episodes features Buddy, an adorable preschool-age Tyrannosaurus Rex, and includes two 11-minute animated stories, along with brief live-action segments hosted by renowned paleontologist Dr. Scott Sampson. Young viewers can join Buddy and his adoptive pteranodon family on a whimsical voyage through prehistoric jungles, swamps, volcanoes, and oceans as they unearth basic concepts in life science, natural history, and paleontology. The learning and fun are continued on the website, where users can play games with their favorite characters, print activity pages, and watch clips from the show itself. Now, Dinosaur Train begins when Buddy is adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Pteranodon and brought up to their nest to hatch at the same time as his new siblings, Tiny, Shiny, and Dawn. Budgie and his new family have an insatiable desire to learn all about the different types of dinosaurs, so they board the so-called dinosaur train, which allows them to travel and explore the world inhabited by these creatures. Departing from Pteranodon Station, the dinosaur train is a colorful locomotive customized to accommodate all kinds of dinosaurs. Windows are perfect for the long-necked herbivores, and there's plenty of room in the observation car also for the Giganotosaurus, giving all the species on board a chance to check out the prehistoric world as they ride on the train. So this dinosaur train has the ability to visit the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous worlds, while the train's conductor, a knowledgeable Troodon, provides passengers with cool facts about dinosaurs along the way. So the main characters are the train conductor, that provides passengers information and facts about the areas and the species they will meet during the episode. And then Dr. Scott Sampson, a real paleontologist, current president and CEO of Science World British Columbia in Vancouver, who provides facts and information on the dinosaurs in each episode and their correspondence in the present era, in the present age. Now, the edutainment part in the dinosaur train lies in the fact that children identify themselves with Buddy with the same relentless curiosity, and they have also teacher-like figures in the train conductor and in Dr. Scott. The train travels across several areas, prehistorical continents, so they mix fantasy and real facts. And then the scientific facts are transmitted through funny characters and vivid colors. The series then features earth science as a broad domain, but also each season explores different aspects related to prehistoric areas and species. So they also cover topics such as biodiversity, extreme weather and climate change, the importance of ecosystems, geology. So it works as a dissemination series for several scientific domains. The topics are familiar to the kids' everyday life. They cover also camping, picnics, weekend activities with the family that is performed by the Pteranodon family and Buddy, of course, and social diversity, acceptance, and the process of growing up. So the series is also integrated by an interactive website with specific interactive sections which are made for children, parents, and teachers as well. In this particular research, I applied a phasal analysis, so I conducted a multimodal investigation using a Baldry anti-Bowles model. And this is the model that I applied. I identified several phases. So we have a recurrent structure of each episode: the opening theme song, the train conductor that anticipates the topic, the family that starts the day with some event or activity that is familiar to children. Then the family boards the train conductor introduces their journey, providing information on the era, the species. Then you have the first 11-minute animated story. Then Dr. Scott, with real children and animations of dinosaurs, provides more detailed information on the dinosaurs. Then you have the second 11-minute animated story with funny conclusions of the episode. And then you have the closing theme song. This is an example of the breakdown of each episode that I conducted using the multimodal analysis and Baldry anti-Bowles multimodal approach that I developed, that I applied. And the specific focus was on the fragment of the episode that involved Dr. Scott. In this particular phase lies the actual knowledge dissemination phase that shows a circular repetitive structure, and I'm going to show you the kind of structure it shows, in which each color represents a different subphase of the segment. You have Dr. Scott appearing with the children and a picture of the dinosaur. Salutation by Dr. Scott. He provides some facts on the dinosaur. Questions to the children reply. He gives more facts. Then there is a man with a hat that enters and he provides sort of comic figure. And then Dr. Scott is showed again alone, giving more facts. The children react to the new remarks, and then there is a direct interaction between Dr. Scott and the children, and then the greeting by Dr. Scott to the audience. This particular repetitive structure of each episode and the knowledge dissemination phase with Dr. Scott can be shown in parallel with the Montessori method, in which the sensitive period of this Montessori method, as you can see from the slide, is reflected by the exclusive repetitive focus on dinosaurs. The education of the senses is also reflected in the series, because each episode stimulates a different aspect of the children senses, because they are always prompted and stimulated in reliving and recreating all the reality of the dinosaurs world. Then the prepared environment is also there present in the episode, because the settings, especially in the case of the emphasis of nature and environment, because the settings are always the natural world of dinosaurs, never a TV set. Even Dr. Scott and the children, they are shown with a natural settings at their back. And then the spontaneous activities through the repetition is reflected in the repetitive structure of the episodes and concepts in each episode of the series, and sorry, and of the way in which Dr. Scott also behaves in each episode of his own segment. Now, talking about Jurassic Park saga, which disseminates scientific knowledge and scientific theories to both adults, and children, but also teenagers, we can see that the specific problem and issues in this case are not only in the English part, but also they might arise when it comes to the translation in subtitling and in dubbing, of course. If an inter-epistemic translation is a kind of translation, we have also the problem within the problem when it comes to mediating these concepts into another language. This is an example in which you can see on the left-hand side the one part of the script, the first episode of the Jurassic Park first movie, in which you have the video that is shown when the group of scientists arrives to the island, and they are shown a demonstration video that will be shown to visitors. You have the Mr. DNA that explains how they recreated the dinosaurs, and they explain, so in this case, all the typical features of knowledge dissemination language are present. For instance, the use of metaphors like the building blocks of life, or strains of DNA, or the blueprint for building a living thing. So in this case, inter-epistemic translation is respected. And in the case of the Italian corresponding translation in subtitling and in dubbing, in the two versions corresponding. My research found out that they quite correctly rendered the idea by adapting the terminology to what is accepted in Italian. So the building blocks becomes the little bricks, mattoncini, the strains of DNA becomes the chain of DNA, catena di DNA, the blueprint becomes a project, because a blueprint in Italian is called project, progetto, not for building a living thing, but to create, per creare un essere vivente. So in this case, then, the translator, the subtitler, creator, the subtitler, so the creator of subtitles, quite correctly used the accepted terminology in Italian. To conclude, my research results can be applied to other languages and language sets, so they create case studies on which you can build other studies. The dissemination of scientific knowledge can also be applied to other scientific domains, especially in the case of communication of scientific knowledge on medical conditions that needs to be, in this case, improved, while research can also be applied to other domains and conditions. So here I am again. Please contact me at the email you see if you have any questions, comments, or queries concerning my research or for projects on these research areas and my other research areas, which include tourism studies and food studies as well. Thank you for your attention. Arigatou gozaimasu.